Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome back to our continuing coverage of Shadows over Innistrad preview season. This is going to be our second video of the day. If you missed the first one, you can check it out right here. There's some sweet tribal cards, a new dual land cycle, and a lot more. Make sure to keep up. The set looks crazy. In this video, more ridiculousness. Hope you enjoy, and if you do, remember to hit that like button. Helps out a lot. A few weeks ago, we got to see Tooth Collector, the first card in a new uncommon cycle of Delirium cards. Today, we're going to look at the rest of them. Paranoid Parish-Blade is 3 mana for a 3/2 human soldier with Delirium. It gets +1/+0 and has first strike as long as there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. If you can satisfy Delirium, a 4/2 with first strike is going to be really difficult to fight against. Also, and I feel like I have to talk about this, that tentacle, you see it right? What the heck is that? Eldrazi? Go. Uh-oh. Manic Scribe is 2 mana for a 0/3 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, that player puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. I would talk about the effectiveness of this card in Limited, but look at her hands. What the heck is that on the end of her hands? That isn't a finger. You can see all her fingers. What is that? Is that a tentacle? What is going on? Someone hold me. Gibbering Fiend is 2 mana for a 2/1 devil. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, it deals 1 damage to that player. This is my kind of Delirium card. It's a Goblin Piker with late game upside. That's awesome. That's everything you want out of an aggressive card like this. Big fan. The last card in this cycle is Obsessive Skinner, 2 mana for a 1/1 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Getting a trigger on each opponent's upkeep is pretty cool for multiplayer games, but since we're obviously talking limited in 1v1 games, it's a bit irrelevant. The Skinner is definitely playable. 2 mana for a 1/1 isn't ideal, but you do get to put a counter wherever you want it. Could make it more relevant late game as a top deck. Either way, it's 2 mana for 2 power with the potential to be a mini Citadel Siege. I definitely play in Limited, easily. Trail of Evidence is 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, investigate. Pretty straightforward card. Get this into play with Jace's Sanctum in Commander and just go nuts. Sorcery and instant tribal is something Izzet players love to do. Now, getting a clue token isn't exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but when you're casting, 5 spells a turn, they add up. Maybe put this into a Mizzix deck or a Tall Rand, something where you want a ton of card draw over the long term. Refills your hand nicely. Welcome to the Fold is 2 of anything and 2 blue for a sorcery with madness costing X and 2 blue. Gain control of target creature if its toughness is 2 or less. If Welcome to the Fold's madness cost was paid instead, gain control of that creature if its toughness is X or less. Before we analyze this card, it's important to point something out. If a werewolf flips, you do get to keep control of it. If a planeswalker flips, as in the Magic Origins walkers, you do not. The planeswalker flip requires it to exile first, resetting control of the permanent, but a werewolf transforming doesn't exile first. See the difference? Anywho, mind control effects can be effective in most any format if used correctly. With a proper discard outlet, there's a good chance you can use this as a combat trick and force their baby planeswalker or best utility creature to block their best attacker. It isn't an ideal trick and it can be expensive, but I like the design, just not sure where I want it right now. Behold the Beyond is 5 of anything and 2 black for a sorcery. Discard your hand, search your library for 3 cards and put those cards into your hand. First, let's get over the fact that this card art is insanely awesome. Now that we're beyond that, this new Diabolic Revelation is the perfect way to grab all of your Hedron alignments out of your deck. Combos for days. Now, there's already been talk about its potential playability and legacy. I mean, we are talking about a triple Infernal Tutor. The problem is the cost. 7 mana is a lot, and even in Storm, where this would see the most play, I'm not sure it's worth it. Also, obligatory comment about Commander. Playing this in, Phage, King Makar, Maryland of the Morn Song. Plenty of choices, just enjoy. Call the Bloodline is 2 mana for an enchantment. You can pay 1 and discard a card to put a 1/1 black vampire knight token with lifelink onto the battlefield. Activate this ability only once per turn. Say hello to another madness enabler for an aggressive red-black vampires deck. Cards like Incorrigible Used is going to love this. There are still a lot more cards to see, but as of right now, this could be one of the better Madness enablers for that deck. You know it's going to need a few, so why not this one? You get tokens, granted they aren't flyers and they're only 1/1s, they're still tokens and they get your vamps out faster. The cost is cheap to activate and you can use it once per turn. Should be able to power out an entire hand of Madness cards within a few turns. I'm optimistic. I think we might be looking at a decent engine here. Burn from Within is X and 1 red for a sorcery. It deals X damage to target creature or player. If a creature is dealt damage this way, it loses indestructible until end of turn. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Now this is a weird card. Basically disintegrate if we're being honest, except for the whole loses indestructible thing instead of can't be regenerated. It's obviously a rare for limited purposes. I enjoy the card and I don't expect it to see insane constructed play or anything, but I do like that they're attacking indestructible. It means that even if you play creatures with these powerful mechanics, it doesn't mean they're unstoppable. I like that mentality, always a way to fight everything. Village Messenger is 1 red mana for a 1/1 human werewolf with haste. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform it into Moonrise Intruder, a 2/2 werewolf with menace. And this card is great, it's super great. This is Goblin Glory Chaser, but better and fixed for standard. Haste is huge here. Dropping this on turn 1 is going to guarantee at least 3 damage against a control deck. If they do cast something, it'll just be to stop this thing from transforming. In that case, you win. Once it is flipped, having to cast 2 spells in order to bring it back to a 1/1, brutal. Red-green werewolf aggro going to be a thing in new standard? Because if so, you can bet the messenger is going to be there giving everyone the bad news. Get it? Because the flavor text, I'm afraid it's bad news. It's hilarious. Briarbridge Patrol is 4 mana for a 3/3 human warrior. Whenever it deals damage to 1 or more creatures, investigate. At the beginning of each end step, if you sacrifice 3 or more clues this turn, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Holy crap, that second ability is hilarious. Getting to investigate just by dealing damage to creatures is really nice. Combat's always a thing. Pair this with something like Tamiyo's Journal and you can power out something gigantic if you want. Best part, the patrol's ability happens at the end of the turn, so as long as you activate the journal before it, you can tutor up whatever you want and then boom, it hits the battlefield. New Emrakul maybe? That'd be sweet. Second Harvest is 2 of anything and 2 green for an instant. For each token you control, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that permanent. What? Commander players rejoice, my goodness. This along with Parallel Lives in a Riku deck or Risk the Redeemed, what about Tristani? Seriously, Second Harvest is insanity for Commander token players, absolute insanity. Truly one of the best Commander printings of the set, easily, not close, wow. Seriously though, Riku, copying this card with Parallel Lives out, do some math, cause I won't, good game. Ulvenwald Mysteries is 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a 1/1 white human soldier token onto the battlefield. This card is a lot better than players are giving it credit for. Look at it this way. If you have clues on the battlefield and sacrifice them, this is essentially what you're doing. Pay 2 mana, put a 1/1 white human soldier token onto the battlefield, draw a card. See? Not so bad, right? If human tribal does indeed become a thing, the Mysteries isn't so bad for some Wrath insurance. Especially since you'll end up with creatures and cards. It's a great way to recover. Tireless Tracker is 3 mana for a 3/2 human scout. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on the tracker. Landfall trigger giving you a clue every time? That is some serious late game value, and the clues being sacrificed grow the tracker? Yeah, that's sweet. There are worse triggers you could put on this thing. Even if it doesn't see play in whatever human deck comes out of Shadows over Innistrad, you know this is about to dominate Commander, right? Omnith Locus of Rage, get a bunch of elementals, a bunch of lands, a Mina and Den even, go crazy, drop a bunch of lands, get a bunch of clues, generate a ton of mana, get a bunch of cards, do that over and over again and win. It sounds fun to me. We've seen a ton of new cards today. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. Which cards are you most excited about? Do you have a favorite tribe, favorite strategy? Do you like clues? I gotta know. If nothing else, you have to admit Shadows is really flavorful. Honestly, there's no way to deny that. The Lovecraftian world that Wizards has created is top-notch. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Shadows over Innistrad spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Second Harvest is a crazy commander card. I know a lot of you are all excited about it. I am too. You're going to want Parallel Lives, you just are. That card's bonkers with Second Harvest. You can grab copies on TCG Player right now for around $7.50. It's pretty cheap for only one printing and high playability in Commander. Great time to get one. Now that you have it, which commander are you going to use? I suggest Riku of Two Reflections for maximum hilarity. You can get the commander version of the card for $10 right now. Good place to start if you want to make some insane mass token plays. Click the links, get cards cheap, and support the channel.